lucky because we've got in the studio with us somebody to have a chat about a brand new book that they've got out as well, which is called Setting Goals Using the Smartest Method. Now, the author is Brian McAleer as well. I wanted to make sure that I got the thumbs up for getting the surname correct, which is good. It's not an easy thing to do at this time in the morning, so I want to welcome Brian McAleer, the author of this wonderful book, to, of course, Coffee Chat Radio program. Welcome.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's great to be here.
It's awesome to have you. I don't often get. As I was saying, I do 2 music-based programs, so it's nice. When I've filled in for Lee before, I've generally made it. I've just sort of followed through, so it's nice actually to do a little bit of talk back. Now you've got this wonderful book out.
Yes.
Tell us how you came about writing this book and when that happened for you.
Sure. Well, to give you a little bit of my background, I'm a life coach, and I predominantly work with young people, but a big passion of mine is goal setting. And as I was starting to set up my business a few years ago, I was looking at all these different goal setting methods, and the one that keeps coming up for a lot of people, which is quite popular, is the SMART way of setting goals, which is an acronym, and each of those letters stands for different things, so small, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-framed. So it's a good way to plan a goal, but I felt it was lacking something, so I just had to add in a few extra elements to it, which gave me those additional letters, the EST, and coincidentally it spelled smartest method, so it was a step up from SMART, and now it's the smartest method. So around this time last year I was writing this as a blog, developing it as a blog, and it got quite a good following on the internet. And I was thinking about my first book and wanted to write that, having been a writer for several years and have written a few articles here and there and lots of blogging. And then I thought, all right, well, this idea seems to be catching on. People are finding it interesting and useful. And then I took what I'd written on the blog, put that together, and the book just sort of came to be. So it did consume my life for the past 6 months.
I was just going to say, so with something like that, I mean, I do a bit of writing myself, but not on that sort of level. I mean, I'd love to be able to sit down and write a book. I do a little bit of blogging and a little bit of stuff on the music sort of side of things. Yep. So how long a process was it for you to put this book together? 6 months, did you say?
Well, I guess piecing together the actual book itself, 6 months, and then if I go back to when I started writing the blog and conceiving the idea, about a year altogether. And the last sort of month or two was spent sort of editing it, fine-tuning it, sending it to the publisher and back and forth, just making sure everything was right. So, lots of late nights coming home from work, once dinner and everything was taken care of, lock myself in the study and just write away, sometimes till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Sounds like the things that dreams are made of, doesn't it? Now, I have to ask you too, because you said that you have got a blog. So is there a place that people can find you on the internet? We probably should find that out too.
Yeah, I'm all over sort of the social networking sites, so I'm quite predominant on Facebook. I've got a few different Facebook pages. I've got a Twitter account. There's an official blog for the book, and I also have my own personal blog as well that people can contact me at, which is just brianmaclear.blogspot.com.au.
Awesome.
And that will give you the link to the book, and also talks about everything else that I do and that sort of stuff as well. So I'm quite active on the internet. Now,
interestingly enough, I was just saying to Pauline at a reception before you arrived, obviously too, that I thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about. For me, it's not. I mean, life coaching I think has become a lot more popular these days. I mean, we're all so busy that I think we stumble over a lot of things in life and need sometimes just somebody else to point us in the right direction. And one of the things that I know that I do, I'm great for setting goals or, getting an idea into place and saying, well, that's what I'm going to do, but I'm no good with the follow through. Yep. So do you have an answer for that, or the cure for that, maybe?
Well, that's the part of the extra elements of my goal setting method. So I mentioned what the SMART part stands for. So what the EST and the smartest method stands for is each of the letters in my method stand for 2 things. So small and specific, measurable and manageable, etc. Then when you get to the EST, the E stands for energized and excited. The S stands for stated and shared, and the T stands for take the first step. So to explain those a little bit, the thing to keep in mind with goals is that when you achieve your goals, and once you've got your outcome, a lot of the times we can feel a bit empty and like, oh, is that it? Is that all there is? You know, because it's an outcome. It's a momentary thing. It will just come and go in a moment. And then once you have that, whether it's a certain amount of money or a book, for example, or a car or a job, then you've got to go somewhere with it. You know, the novelty of it can sometimes wear off very quickly, and it's like, oh, that wasn't all I hoped it would be. So I always emphasize that you need to focus more and enjoy the process of working on the goal, because that's where you're going to do the most work and the most learning and everything. So the E stands for excited and shared. So when I was just resorting to the SMART way of setting goals, I'd have this wonderful plan and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, but I wasn't really pumped about it. You know, I wasn't feeling kind of inspired about it. So I needed to generate some excitement about working on the goal, because if you're not excited about working on it, you won't be excited when you actually achieve it. Because the two go hand in hand. So I had to create this sense of excitement about my goal, and also I had to inject it with energy, because, you know, a goal is like a car. So when you go through the SMART process, you're putting in all the elements that make your car move. Those are all the moving parts. But without fuel, it's not going to go anywhere. So consider that, you know, the fuel for your goal is energy. And, you know, what's going to keep you on track and taking action is really, you know, immersing yourself in your goal and talking about it to everyone you meet, and having pictures on your wall that remind you about it, because quite often we can write the plan, put it on our desk, and then nothing happens with it.
So is that a little bit like my previous housemate went through a thing with, I guess, her musical career, like a lot of musicians, and I guess I can sort of bring this into, it's relevant, I guess, to what you've written, because it's something that a lot of musicians struggle with, is, you know, the goals, and or making a goal achievable, I think, is more to the point. And I know I've said to a couple of my muso friends recently that I said, look, you know, you've got to build yourself, you've got to sit down and do yourself a timeline. You know, for don't make it a 5-year timeline, make it 18 months, something that's achievable.
Absolutely.
And I know for myself, if I set myself a too big a goal, I don't seem to get there. I don't seem to, you know, kick the footy through it. You know, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like, you know, if you have smaller goals, so the smaller goals that are more achievable, then if you don't reach the big goal, one goal that you set for yourself, then, you know, you're not as disheartened. So if you set the little goals and achieve those to the bigger goal, is that sort of the idea?
Yeah, you're spot on, actually. And what you've just mentioned there about having a small goal and something that's achievable and a time frame is all covered in my method. But I have a bit of a different twist on it, which might make people think, oh, okay, what's he on about here? But
please share.
Once you read it, it gets you sort of thinking.
I can see folks at home now. We're on radio, but I can see folks at home now moving closer to the wireless.
Right. So, okay. So the secret element of this is the first part of the smartest method is setting a goal that is small and specific. Now, I'm not telling people to dream small. I always say dream big. But if your goal, for example, if you're a musician, is to create your first album, you might struggle with that as a standalone goal. So chunk it down into more smaller goals. So maybe your first goal is to write your first song. Then your second goal would to be write your next 2 songs. And then you keep implementing that until you have 8, 9, 10 songs. Then you've got your album. So your small goal should be leading to a bigger goal. It's part of that kind of overall bigger purpose in life. So if your goal is to be a multi-millionaire, you're going to struggle to achieve that just as a standalone goal. You should chunk that down into maybe 9 or 10 smaller goals. So maybe your first goal should just be to save $2,000, which you can then maybe invest in something like real estate or stocks, where the money will then grow and accumulate. So starting small. In terms of setting a goal that's achievable, my philosophy on what's achievable is that it's all driven by our belief system. So what we deem as achievable for us and others is based on what we believe is achievable. And beliefs have a lot of power over us. You know, they can really lift us up and move us forward, but they can also hold us down, especially if it's a limiting belief. And the good thing with beliefs is that, you know, they seem to be just naturally formed over years, over like maybe the way we were brought up, what we've seen in the media, certain experiences. But we can also consciously form our own beliefs as well. So if you think of a belief that's going to serve you in your goal, say your goal is to be wealthy, so one of your beliefs should be, I am good with my money. That needs to have supports that back up that belief. So you can write those down. So if I'm good with money, the supports that tell me that I'm good at saving, I don't spend, I invest, and I'm always looking for new opportunities. So once you write that down and you start to kind of integrate it into your life, it then forms this new belief for you over time. So that's the conscious way of doing it. And then with setting a goal that's time framed, in my book I talk about, we spend our time and we use it based on how we perceive time, basically. So there's a very effective exercise in the book which is called a default diary. Have you heard of default diaries?
I haven't actually, and you've got me intrigued now, so I'm all ears this morning.
Okay, great. Well, a default diary is where you look at your week and how you spend your time.
Okay.
So
yes.
not like a work diary where you schedule in your appointments, but like a default diary is you fill in where are you spending your time. So how many hours are you sleeping? How much time are you spending getting ready for work? Traveling to work. And then by doing this exercise you come to two realizations. The first one being A, you don't have any spare time like most of us.
Yep.
Or B, you've actually got more spare time than you think. And then the next part of that is how are you spending that spare time.